everybody, today for you guys I have a Rebekah Mikaelson inspired makeup tutorial. Just from the success of my Elena Gilbert inspired makeup tutorial, I thought I would do another Vampire Diaries type of look, and I decided to do Rebekah's makeup because it's a little bit more intricate than Elena's. Elena definitely just kind of focuses on a little bit of eyeshadow, some mascara, and her eyebrows, and that's pretty much about it. Rebekah has a little bit more color to her cheeks. There's a little bit more of like that pinky corally type of cheek, a golden eye with a very defined sort of outer V, and then a pinky purpley lip. In case any of you are curious, the main inspiration for this look was season 4 episodes about 13 through 15 when they're on the island. I'm not going to try to give away too many spoilers if you haven't seen season 4 yet, but her makeup is a lot like this. Like I said, the pinky purpley lip, corally pink cheek, and then sort of golden-y defined eye. I thought it was really, really pretty. I find that in those episodes her makeup was a lot easier to see. There's this one scene where she's talking to Damon and you can really see more of like the color in her makeup, and I feel like these are kind of the colors that she used. So I hope you guys find this helpful and you find it at least pretty close to what she does. I just tried to use, you know, obviously things that I had in my own collection that I thought were similar colors to the stuff that her makeup artist uses. So if you're wondering how to get this look, then just stay tuned. Okay, so I'm going to start by using some eyeshadow primer on my eyelids. I am using the Nars Smudge Proof Eyeshadow Base. And I'm just going to smooth this in using my finger. You can use any primer that you want. This is just going to help the shadows stick better and wear longer throughout the day. I'm also just going to give a quick little curl to my lashes. I like to do this step first. It's just sort of like a personal preference, but obviously you can do it right after we're done applying the eyeshadow if you would like. So for this Rebekah Mikaelson look, I'm going to use this Maybelline Eye Studio Quad. This is from the Color Explosion line, and this is in the shade Caffeine Rush. I was digging through my collection trying to find a palette that I think worked well for her, and this seriously just like popped out at me because you have this sort of warmer flesh tone color here, which is what she really wears a lot on her lids, but she also wears a kind of like a taupey and chocolatey type of a brown in her crease, which this palette also comes with a taupe and then a chocolatey brown. So I seriously feel like this is the most appropriate type of little palette that I have for her look. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to start by taking that warm sort of fleshy tone on a Sigma. I think this is the E55 brush. And I'm just going to pat this all over the eyelid. It really gives just a nice sort of golden type of effect. And I like how this sort of just has like a nice satin finish to it because her makeup isn't very matte, but it's also not super shimmery. So these sort of like satin type of eyeshadows I think work really well. This color is just so spot on for her lid shade. By the way, I haven't done any concealing or any foundation just because if anything falls down, I want to be able to get it later. Because I do sort of want a blending transitional shade, and this palette doesn't really have that sort of like matte mid-tone brown. I am going to go into the Urban Decay Naked palette, and I'm going to take the shade called Naked, which is just that neutral mid-tone brown that I was talking about. You can use any type of color for this. There's millions of different drugstore options. You just want a light to medium brown shade that you can apply throughout your crease. That way when we go in and apply that chocolatey brown shade, it doesn't look so harsh. So I'm just taking this right through my socket line. Now what I'm going to do is go back into that E55 brush, and I'm going to use this shimmery taupe shade, and I'm going to apply this just on sort of like the outer third of my eyelid and work it slightly into the crease. This is just going to give that kind of taupey effect to the look because in some shots Rebekah's makeup looks more cool toned while in others it looks more warm toned. So I think that if you kind of use both, you sort of get the best of both worlds. And in the season 4 type of makeup that I'm doing here, I feel like she does have a little bit of like a taupiness going on just on the outer corners. So I'm just going to take this and pat it right along here. This is also just going to give a little bit more definition to the look and help create that really sort of like sunken outer V that she has. Okay, so the next part of this look is to define the crease further by taking a chocolatey brown shade. I'm just going to use this little dark chocolate brown there, and I'm going to pick this up on that same brush that I used to apply the mid-tone shade. It's the Sephora Pro Oval Blending Brush. Anything like a MAC 217 or like Sigma has a version. You guys know that I am absolutely obsessed with this brush. It's just a great brush to use for blending and just outer V and crease work in general. So I'm just taking a little bit onto the tip, tapping it off because we're going to work on layering the shade. That way it doesn't look too intense. And I'm just going to begin by placing it right here on the very outer part of my eyelid. And then I'm just going to wedge it right here into the crease. I want the most color concentration to be on the very outer part of my eyelid because just the way her bone structure is, she has a very like sunken in type of eye. And you can tell that, you know, with their makeup they sort of play that up a little bit by creating a really pretty sort of dark outer V. So we're just going to concentrate it right here on the very outer part of the lid. And I'm also going to bring it down just right into this little wedge shape here, more towards my lash line. And then using any type of a blending brush, I'm just going to blend away some of these edges. And then I'm just going back in with a little bit more color and bringing it sort of towards the middle of my lid, just sort of layering these shadows up until I feel like I have a nice and very, very defined outer V. Now for my highlight, I feel like these shades in here are a little bit too pearly. I mean, this shade right here is like a full-on glitter, and then this one is quite shimmery and frosty, and she doesn't have like a super shimmery highlight. I think mainly because some of this shimmer that we have going on the eyelids might be a little bit too much if we, you know, also do a shimmery highlight. So I'm going to go into the Lorac Pro palette and just take the shade called Cream. You can use any type of a matte cream highlight color that you want. It definitely doesn't have to be this one by any means. And just pop this right underneath your brow bone. Alright, so now on to eyeliner. I'm going to start by using the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On pencil in the shade 0. It's just a matte black, really, really creamy liner. And I'm going to start to push this really, really close into my upper lash line. She has a very sort of like hazy type of a liner, but it's not too thick, it's not too dramatic, it just doesn't look like it's drawn on, it doesn't really look like a liquid liner. It looks like maybe they just did like some shadow lining or something, so that's the effect that I'm going to kind of go for. But I am going to use this just sort of as a base so that when I put the black eyeshadow on top it sticks a little bit better and we can smoke it out just a tiny, tiny little bit. So taking this, I'm just going to kind of start to messily apply it to my upper lash line. And you can see that it's just a super, super thin line that I did. But before this sets, I am going to take a matte black shadow. I'm just going to go back into that Lorac Pro palette and take the shade called Black. Any type of a matte black will work. You could even use a really, really dark brown if you wanted something a little bit softer. And using a push lining brush, I'm just going to begin to stamp this right into my lash line. And as I sort of stamp it in, I'm also going to give just a little tiny wiggle to the brush. And what that's going to do is it's going to help give it a slightly hazy effect. Alright, so once you have your upper lash line lined, just take a little bit of that black again and just run it up along your tight line. Rebekah doesn't really seem to have anything going on her actual waterline. It doesn't look like there's any like black there. It doesn't even really look like she has a super like nude liner, so I'm just going to leave it bare. I think that that is the best way to go. And now I'm just going to go in here and apply some mascara. I'm going to use the L'Oreal Voluminous Full Definition Mascara because this one is my favorite at the moment. Rebekah also has very large, kind of dramatic lashes. I mean, you can obviously tell that they probably use fake lashes on her. It looks like to me they probably use like some flares on the outer edge. I'm not going to do it because I'm just wearing this makeup to work, and I feel like this mascara gives me enough of that sort of like definition and that length to the, you know, to the point where I don't really need any false lashes. But you know, if you want to, you can definitely apply some. So anyway, I'm just going to go in here and apply a few coats of this. So now that we've gotten that done, I'm just going to move on and show you guys what I'm going to do for some foundation and concealer. So I'm going to zoom you guys out and be with you here in just a sec. Alrighty, so starting with foundation, Rebekah has very natural, sort of satiny skin. It's not anything too dewy, but it's definitely not matte. It just looks extremely natural, but of course her skin is perfect. So I'm just going to use like a tinted moisturizer. I'm going to use the Nars Pure Radiant Tinted Moisturizer today. I'm just going to dot, ooh, I got a lot on my nose there. I'm just going to dot this around my face. And then using my Real Technique stippling brush, I'm going to blend this out. And then I am going to apply some under eye concealer. I'm using the Rimmel Match Perfection. This is in the shade Fair/Light. And then next I'm just going to set this all with a little bit of my Korres Wild Rose Brightening Powder. I'm using this because, like I said, she has very sort of like glowy, satiny skin, and I don't want it to end up looking too matte. So finally for the eyes, I'm just going to finish up on the lower lash line by taking that chocolatey brown and a small little crease brush here. And I'm just going to apply a tiny little bit of this right here on the outer part of my lower lash line. It doesn't look like she has a whole lot of shadow on her lower lash line, but maybe just a little bit on the outer corner. Then apply some mascara onto your lower lash line. I'm going to use the Clinique High Impact on my lower lash line just because I feel like this grabs my lower lashes better than the Full Definition one does. That one just, I think, is a little bit too much for my lower lashes, so I like to use this one instead. Alrighty, so now I'm just going to move on to a little bit of bronzer just to give myself a nice contour because she does have very nicely defined cheekbones. I think a lot of that just comes with her face structure. I'm going to use the e.l.f. Contouring Blush and Bronzer Duo. And I'm just going to apply this right here in the hollows of my cheeks and blend it slightly up towards the temple. And then also down my jaw. For blush, I'm just going to go into that same little dough here and use the blush that comes with it. Rebekah has a very pretty corally pinky type of a blush. I noticed that when I was watching the episodes, it just looked very natural. But there definitely is a bit of color to her cheeks. It's not like Lena's makeup, which I feel almost has like no blush to it at all. She definitely has a little bit of color, so I'm just going to use this here because I think that this really fits that corally pinky shade very well. The shade here also isn't super matte, so it kind of keeps with the slightly glowy skin that we have going on. I'm just applying this to the back of my cheekbone here and then sort of sweeping it towards the front. Just because I feel like the concentration of color that she has more is towards the back. Again, sort of just help bring out those cheekbones a little bit. So once you just have a little tiny bit of color onto your cheeks, I'm going to move on and do my eyebrows real quick. Rebekah has very sort of like straight kind of eyebrows. There's really not a whole lot of a curve or an arch to them. Because this is just sort of an inspired look, I'm just going to fill in my eyebrows like I usually do because I don't really feel like trying to like straighten them out too much. If you're trying to like do an exact copycat of look, you could definitely lower your arch by just sort of drawing more straight across and not really curving your brush too much. But I'm just going to fill mine in like I usually do. So I'm just starting by using my Maybelline Master Shape. I will be doing a brow routine here shortly. And then I use my Anastasia Duo just to set that waxy pencil and fill in any gaps. Also, Rebekah's eyebrows are obviously a lot lighter than mine since she has blonde hair, which is another reason why I'm not doing my eyebrows exactly like hers because that would just look kind of weird on me. Then I'm just going to go in here and set it using a bit of a brow gel. This is the Prestige Brow Gel. I've been really liking this recently. And now finally onto the lips. Rebekah has a very sort of like pinky purpley type of a lip. It's not that it's necessarily like a cool tone pink. I just think that there's definitely like a bit of a purple tinge almost to her lips. It's very, very flattering on her. I think with the blonde hair and blue eyes, that sort of like purpley pinkiness just looks really nice. So I'm going to start by using the Revlon Just Spit and Kissable Balm Stain. This is in the shade Honey. This is going to give us just that initial sort of pinkness to her lips. I really love sort of the more cooler, pinkier purple lip with the warm eyes. It's just a little bit different. I think it looks really cool. And then over the top of that, I'm going to use the Steely Lip Glaze. This is in the shade Seashell. It's a very sort of like purpley pink that has a slight sort of like gold iridescence to it. And I think it really helps to complement the gold that we have kind of going on the eyes. And it just, I think it looks really pretty. And I'm using a tiny little bit of this because she doesn't have super glossy lips. So once you just have a light kind of glossy lip, you're good to go. And that is the end of my Rebekah Mikaelson inspired makeup tutorial. I hope you guys found this helpful and found it at least pretty similar to what she wears. I think that it looks really nice. I think this is a really flattering look because, like my Elena Gilbert inspired makeup tutorial, it could definitely work for like a schoolwork or like a work type of makeup. And this look is sort of made, I think, more for like blue eyes and blonde hair. So if you kind of fit that category, I think that this will really look nice on. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.